speaking of fantasy, that's what we're going to be talking about. People that have been nothing but disappointments on our team and just the frustrations of fantasy. So, Todd, who has been sucking dick the most on your team?
Oh man, so I have one big player on my team who's been kind of costing me a lot of games due to bad judgments on my part, and that's Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan started off the season great. I believe 27 points his first game, 25 points his second game. After that, he's just been pretty inconsistent for me. In the last few weeks, he's been invisible. I mean, he's cost me a couple games where he's gotten 5 points, 10 points, 13. Like, out of a starting QB, I just need more production than that.
Yeah, I feel you. One QB I picked up in waivers was Carson Wentz, and I'll put him in for a bye week with Josh Allen, who's my starting quarterback. Nope, no production, just absolute garbage. I thought, you know what, it's an easy matchup. I think it was against a really lesser team, so he's
Hmm.
got to do something out of this. No, he's just
Just
terrible.
bad, yeah, just bad. And it's something where, for example, Matt Ryan today, I just looked at the stats real quick, and Russell Gage threw the only touchdown that the Falcons have. Matt Ryan has 21 yards, 4 passes, 0 touchdowns. Russell Gage has 1 pass, 39 yards, and a touchdown. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. And I got Josh Jacobs on my lineup, and injuries just been killing him, man. I can't get anything consistent out of him. And guess who gave him to me?
That's
My
why.
good buddy Todd over here. Who did I give you for Josh Jacobs?
You gave me Mr. Connor and Will Fuller, who didn't know he was doing steroids, but apparently that's illegal in the NFL. I don't know why. Like, you might as well let everybody be as strong as possible, right?
Yeah, but we don't want anyone's dick shrinking though.
That's very true. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, the less chance that he's going to sleep with my girlfriend, so that's always a plus side on that.
Yeah, in the acquisition for Josh Jacobs with Todd, I also got CD Lamb, and
Solid,
CD's
solid
nuts, they
receiver, man.
suck, man. I can't get anything out of him either.
It's just quite unfortunate because CD, and I'm not going to lie, next year I'm going to try to draft him again. But with Dak Prescott, he's a completely different player. It's not, I'm taking away from Andy Dalton by any means. Andy Dalton's doing as much as he can, but their offensive line's beat up at this point as well. And it's just something where
Right.
they're not having as much production as they like, even though they had a solid win today, 30-7. So it's nice to see that the Cowboys are getting back into the groove.
Yeah, it is nice to see Andy Dalton beat his old team too.
Oh yeah, I mean that team's busted too, so it's
Yeah,
not saying a lie.
yeah. I was just talking on my last segment of how you can't trust a rookie quarterback to change your franchise. It takes a lot of pieces and good
Hmm.
management to turn around a team like that.
Oh yeah,
I'm rooting for them. Hopefully they'll get something, but they just need to draft some O line pieces to protect their quarterbacks.
yeah. And are you talking about Cincinnati?
Yeah,
Or
Cincy.
yeah, Cincinnati. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, dude, I love Burrow this year. Burrow was a solid player. It's too bad what happened to his knee, but I mean, that's kind of what happens when you're a rookie and you think you can take on these 300-pound linemen. Eventually, they're gonna get you. They're gonna nab you, and it's not gonna feel good.
Right. Yeah, speaking of these people that want to destroy you, like I had the Ravens defense in my lineup, and I was looking real good with them. And then there'll be times where they just allow so much garbage points, and then I'll go from like 11 points, and then 20 minutes later, I'm down to like 6 points.
Yeah, it's defenses are tough, man. Honestly, like I would probably say that there's maybe 3 to 4 that you can rely with a consistent. I'm gonna put them in my lineup every week, and they're gonna get you anywhere between 4 and 10, 4 and plus points a week. And I mean, that's just how defenses are in fantasy. You can never really rely on one. A lot of it's matchups, and some of it's just luck. But
Right. Yeah, and then something that's been really that really bugs me is when I get players. I mean, you can understand this. I get players that get so many touches or targets, and they get all these yards, but they don't give me any TDs. And it's like most of those yards are pointless because the TDs is what makes you win week over week.
yeah, and I mean, we do play in a non PPR, so
Right.
it's important that they get the touchdowns because with receivers and PPR, like even if they aren't scoring touchdowns, like a player gets 5 to 10 receptions, that's 5 to 10 extra points, and a receiver can have anywhere between 15 and 20 points, which is fine. Like that'll do the job.
Right. And then like one thing is just this is me personally. I'm just so hesitant with trades. Like I think, oh, this is working. I don't need to do anything. But then when something bad happens, like, well, is it just a off? It's just a bad week or an off or a week or a bad matchup? Is like I just don't know the direction to go sometimes.
And it all depends. Yeah, and it all depends what kind of league you're into. Like our league, for example, is sweaty dudes that like to play fantasy and snag people off the waivers, try to rip you off any chance they can get, and it's just something where you got to do your research. Who's good? How consistent are they? And is what you're trading going to be valued later in the
Oh,
season? And a lot of things is you just kind of have to take in consideration that sometimes you're not going to get the best end of the trade. That's just how it works sometimes.
right. Because otherwise, why would you want to make a trade if you're not going to win out of it?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
they're
yeah,
I mean, I say they're gonna when people make trades, they're gonna find a way that they can maximize
yeah.
the trade. So that just happens sometimes that you are in the short end of the stick.
You just gotta look for longevity, man. 13 weeks of regular seasons. It's a long season, so it's you gotta look. They might not be top scoring players, but if they're gonna get you 8 to 10 points every week, and you're giving up a superstar who's injury prone, I'd say go for it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do you? So yeah, we're in the playoffs right now, and this is where it gets spicy because once you lose this week, you're out for good. Well, technically, depending which bracket you're in, if you lose, you have no chance of winning your uh your bracket. So do you have any
Correct.
tips of going into the playoffs?
Yeah, so I mean, just be very wary of what players you draft or what players you have on your team. A lot of teams at this point in fantasy are starting to clinch their division, such as the Chiefs, the Steelers. If the Saints win today, they'll clinch as well. So there will be a lot of points in the games coming up in the playoffs where your starting running back, your starting receiver might receive less touches on the ball, less receptions. They might start resting players just to get ready for the actual playoffs coming up in the next few weeks. So just be very wary of what players you have on your teams if they're on one of those top dog teams. Also, another thing to keep in mind when we're dealing with playoffs are matchups are very important. Keep in mind, for example, if you have any player on Seattle this week playing the Jets, that's a must start. Even if you're in a 12, 14 man league and it's something where you see a deep league where you have maybe that rookie receiver on Seattle, I'd say if you don't have any other options, it wouldn't hurt to draft because, I mean, Jets, worst team in the NFL right now, defense ranked number 27th. You never know who's going to score the touchdowns there.
Right. Yeah, and I think another thing to pay attention to is when you look at like matchups on defenses, you can't sometimes have to pay attention like which part of their defense is the worst.
Mhm.
Like you can see a really bad you can see a defense that's like maybe 25th overall, but pay attention to what makes them 25th. It could be they have a good run game, but their pass can just allow so many yards. It's kind of like the Seattle Seahawks. So like, oh, okay, this defense allows a lot of passing yards and TDs, and I have a matchup with one against some of my receivers. Yeah, that's an opportunity to take.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, this is a longevity race. You got to kind of think ahead at times. Uh, but for people that are kind of interested in the playoffs, I mean, excuse me, the fantasy football, do you have any like tips for people that want to start in the 2021 season? So yeah, Todd, this is you. You just won. You just won our fantasy league. You got $30 out of it, and you now have your own show, and you give tips like Matt Berry on how
Oh,
to do
yeah.
good in the fantasy league. So what are your three tips you want to give to the newcomers in
That
fantasy?
that would be the life for sure. I'm not gonna lie. So coming in as a newbie playing fantasy football, I have three tips that I'd like to give you. One, in my personal opinion, never draft a rookie in the first round unless maybe it's a late 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th pick. Um, don't get me wrong, there's some great rookies that come into the class, but for example, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's a great RB, but he's just not putting up first round draft numbers at this point. Like he's very talented, very fast, but it could be a fact that just the team he's on. He's on a very pass heavy team. Patrick Mahomes is the playmaker on that team. He's the one who's going to dictate who gets the ball, who's going to score. So it's just something where you can find somebody who's been doing very consistent the past seasons. Like, for example, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins would be a great pick. Alvin Kamara is always a safe pick, and it's just something where I know a lot of people this year gave up Alvin Kamara to go for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And, I mean, Alvin Kamara before Drew Brees got hurt was phenomenal, especially in PPR. This man gets 9 receptions, 97 yards receiving, 50 yards on the ground, and a couple touchdowns. It's just something where go with what's safe, in my opinion. My second hint would be don't overuse the waivers. Waivers are very important, so it's good to use when you need it. For example, if you have an RB and he gets hurt and you see that his backup is still on the waivers, that would be a good time to use it. Overusing the waivers is only going to put you at the back of the line moving forward, and then at that point, it's just something where you're never going to be able to secure those solid players that come apparent on the waivers. And for my last one, when in doubt, bury it out. So this one is my favorite one, Matt Berry. I love to watch his stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, he's not 100% right. He's not a freaking fortune teller. It's not like he can predict the future, but he knows his stuff. He's got his statistics right, and it's just something where if you're unsure of who to start, it's a good idea to listen to him. I mean, probably 85% of the time, which is a made-up statistic, by the way, but what I feel is when I listen to him, it works out for me.